Good evening. How is everybody? Hey, Dave. How's it going? I almost forgot, you guys. I was sitting on the couch, goofing off, researching nothing super smart, and I look at the clock. I had 5 minutes. So I'm late. Good. I am great. Um, I am good. It is nice here. We are busy. It's all good. Hey, Karen. Hey, Brandy. I was stuck inside too. Well, I chose to be inside because I have awesome clients to help, but I was inside as well. And we went out to grill, so I got outside for a little bit after supper. And then I had to do my homework and prepare for our meeting tonight. So, and then I forgot. So look, this is what you guys. I am so not high maintenance. Oh gosh, I usually at least put on like a little bit of makeup so I look like I'm alive for this, and that didn't happen. Since I got off the couch and ran downstairs to my office, and oh my gosh, so look at me. That's what you get. It's what you get. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. How's everybody else doing? We have amazing meetings to go over this week. Some fun stuff that it seems like I either don't go over a lot or maybe it was just more of it this week, kind of the same thing. But we have some pretty fun stuff to go over this week. I think it's fun, but I always think everything's fun. So for those of you that are just joining, or this is maybe the first time, hey Brent, maybe this is the first time you have joined a Farming Without the Bank live, thanks for being here. I am Mary Jo Irmen, and I am the author of the book Farming Without the Bank. And every week we go over clients that I am helping, trying to get them out of the traditional banking system and helping them become bankers. So if you have not gotten the book Farming Without the Bank, you can get it in audio, and you can go to farmingwithoutthebank.com and you can grab it there. At the time of this video, we are experiencing a few technical difficulties on the checkout. Some people are able to check out and buy the book, and other people are not. And we don't know what's happening. So if you are having problems purchasing the book until we get that fixed, just call us or email maryjo@withoutthebank.com and say, hey, call me. I want to buy the book. And we will call you, and because we have a different means to process that outside of whatever we do online. But guess what, you guys? You have been, last week we kind of released it, kind of, halfway. But Life Without the Bank is ready to go as well. And you can get that on withoutthebank.com. You can go to Farming Without the Bank. But if you just want Life Without the Bank, you can go to withoutthebank.com and you can grab it there, because we don't seem to be having checkout problems over there. Okay, let's see. Nobody else is going to say hi? A whole 25 of you are on and only a couple say hi? Okay. All right. I wore the appropriate shirt today. Do you guys see my shirt? 100% German, no sugar coating. Yeah. That's this girl. And I had to use some of that German today. But we had, hey Sterling, how's it going? Let's get started with one of the clients. These guys are, this was kind of a fun meeting. They are non-farmers. They were referred to Farming Without the Bank. Read it, understood that it made sense, even though they're non-farmers. And they own he owns a couple businesses. She works a traditional job. Now, what was interesting is she didn't read the book. And she is an accountant major, and she worked in a public accounting firm. He, on the other hand, read the book, tried to explain it to her. But you know how men are. Most men have very few words. So a lot of the explanation just doesn't happen. I'm going to pick on you guys a little bit. I had a couple clients this week. I had one man who used a lot of words. And then I had another one who used no words. So I just sit and listen, or the reverse, ask a lot of questions to try to get the answers that I need. But in this instance, she didn't really know a whole lot about it, thought it was insurance. And she really had some good questions that the typical individual has. And that is, why would I pay myself back? She's like, because I started talking to him about the fact that the company has a lot of money in it. And if the company wants to lend him money, he can pay it back to the company plus interest. Now, doesn't mean you have to claim the interest on the company side. Just means that you're being an honest banker. And she kind of laughed a little bit. And she's like, I've never thought of that. Because it's not what she was taught to think, right? As an accountant, she was taught to say, hey, pay cash for everything. So her question was, is it bad for us to have debt? In your thought process, is it bad to have debt, that we have a vehicle loan and we have a mortgage? Shouldn't we pay those off? And I had to explain to her that it is not a bad thing to have a mortgage if the money that you're going to use for that mortgage can create another business that can create more cash flow. Does it matter if we have another mortgage? Or does it matter that we have a mortgage? I don't think so, right? Like, if I have a mortgage, and let's just use me as an example. If I owe $200,000 on my house, and I have $200,000 of cash, I could pay my house off. Or I could use that $200,000 of cash to go start a business, to use for marketing, to buy land, right? To buy an opportunity. If we are entrepreneurial, why do we want to give up access to that cash? If we're paying 2.5% interest to the bank, aren't we better off to just use the bank for now and then leverage our dollar, and we can do something else that's going to make us more than a 2.5% return, that's going to create some income? And so she just was like, oh, yeah, she just hadn't thought about it that way, right? Because we're in this mindset that we need to have everything paid off. And then she said, and then we were going on talking about 401ks because she hadn't read the book. So she didn't know I had a whole chapter called The Market Scam. And so we were talking about 401ks and how we're paying tax on the seed, or we're getting a tax deduction on the seed, and we're paying tax on the harvest. So I grabbed my little jars because this is a really good example. We get a tax break on this, right? We have 2 kernels of corn in here. Now, these actually came from the farm, like I went and got them. So we have 2 kernels of corn, and then I grabbed the ears off of that stalk. Took all the corn out of there. This is what it produces. If this is what our 401k is, do you want to pay tax on this while you have write-offs? Because you have businesses, you have a farm, right? You have some deductions. Do you want to pay tax on this? Or do you want to pay tax on this when we quit farming, when we sold the business, and we don't have any tax deductions? The kids are gone. The house is paid for because we've listened to all the gurus. What do you want to do? We want to pay tax on this. But what are we doing? In a 401k, in an IRA, we're paying tax on this with no deductions. Because that's what they told us to do. It's the best thing ever. And so when I got done explaining a lot of this stuff, she said, why doesn't everybody know about this? Right? Because we did agree on one thing. People shouldn't be buying stuff to avoid taxes. So we agreed on one thing in her accounting world. But why doesn't everybody know about this? My theory, think about it. IRAs started in 74. 46 years ago, we were told we should put our money in the market. The people that are 65, 70, 75, they are the first generation to use that system from beginning to end. They're also the generation that is living longer, right? People weren't supposed to live this long, so you're supposed to retire at 65. It's not working. My 65 and 70-year-olds are saying, Mary Jo, my gosh, my taxes are huge. I saved what I was supposed to. I put 10%, 15, 20% away every year. I did what I was supposed to. Now I'm in the highest tax bracket. You are in the highest tax bracket because you didn't take your deduction on this. You didn't put it where it's going to grow income tax free. Instead of taking your deduction on this, you decided that you're going to pay tax here. Or instead of paying tax here, you decide you're going to pay tax here. A little confused tonight. That is a big deal. Nobody tells us this until we're 65, and then all of a sudden we go, oh my gosh, Mary Jo, how do I get money out of this without paying all these taxes? You can't. You have to pay your taxes. The government's going to take it one way or another. Because right now, even if you pass away at 65 or 70 or 75 or 80 and you leave money to your heirs, they have 10 years they have to take it. The government's going to get their tax money. So we have to pay attention. We have to think about it. We have to look for these new avenues. It made sense to her, and it would make sense to so many more if they were listening to the message, if they heard the message. She was not willing to read the book. I said her homework now is to read the book. She said, well, my husband's going to be gone tonight. I'll probably start tonight. Right? Because now it made sense. Now we have a reason to. Listen to those people around you that are telling you, sharing with you. They may have a valid point. But stop this. This is nonsense. The other thing is if you have all this wonderful money in your IRA and you don't need it because you've been really successful. Maybe you have some rental properties. Maybe you're renting out your ground. Maybe you still have cows on shares, right? Maybe you're still farming for cash rent or you're farming on share. Oh my God, crop sharing. So you don't need to go to your IRA for any money, okay? So now you're chucking along at 65 and life is great, 66, 67, 69, 70, 71, 72. The government comes in and says, oh, no, you need to take money out of here. You must. It's called a required minimum distribution. You must take money from here. And if you don't, we are going to estimate with a calculator what you should be taking. And if you don't take it, we're going to charge you a 50% tax on that. So you can take it and you can pay, 20% or whatever tax bracket you're in, or you can leave it there and pay 50. Who in their right mind is going to leave it there? So even if you've done everything right and you have other means of income, you now have to start taking this at 72. Because who's in control? The government. She also had a good comment about, but Mary Jo, if I borrow cash value, then my heirs will get less death benefit. They sure will. Because if you have a loan in your cash value, your children or your heirs are going to get your death benefit minus any cash value loan. So if you are using cash value to live because that's where you've put your money, then yep, they're going to get a reduced death benefit. Now, what if you put all your money right here and you started using it and you died? They're not going to get it all. So what's the difference? If you put money in an IRA, they're not going to get it. And if they do get it, they got to pay tax on it. So if you put money in a life insurance policy, they get the difference, which is what you would have used anyway, probably even more, because of the fact that when you take money from here, you need to take what you need to live plus a little extra for taxes. When you take money from a life insurance policy, you only need to take what you need because it's going, or you only need to borrow what you need because it's going to be income tax free. Dave said, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Yes. And that is when we should all run. Right? When they make a rule and then they make an exception to the rule, we should be concerned. So does it matter if we are going to build that system in cash value or we're going to build that system in a traditional IRA? It doesn't matter. Either way, we're going to need money from both of those systems. They're both going to be depleted. The life insurance is going to have death benefit in addition to the cash value. It's going to last longer because we don't have to pull extra out to pay taxes. Okay? So we have to be smart about it. And the life insurance is guaranteed. She has no guarantees in her IRA. Zero, zilcho. Because she said, well, what if something happens to you? Right now, Edward Jones, I think that's where she had her stuff. Edward Jones is comfortable, right? It's secure. It makes her feel good. What happens if something happens to me? Well, the life insurance company is still there. There's other agents that can help. But nothing's going to happen to your money because it's at the life insurance company. They are 140 to 200 years old, but your 401ks and IRAs are only 46 years old. Where's the history? Life insurance is older than the Federal Reserve. It's older than IRAs and 401ks. Where was money put prior to 401ks and IRAs? Employers had pensions that were put into annuities. Actuarially, those are guaranteed. Guaranteed. They knew what they needed put there to have retirement for their employees. The government comes in and says, I'm here to help. And what did they do? They destroyed pensions that were guarantees. All these people moved them to the market. Now we have pension managers that are stealing people's money and saying, oh, I don't know if you're going to have money there. I mean, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. My husband he has no pension, but he worked 20 years to have a pension and it's gone because it's mismanaged. And the letter that we got said, oh, we didn't know that the market was going to crash in 2008. We did not anticipate that. That was one of their reasons why there's no money in his pension. Are you kidding me? You are a market manager and you don't anticipate a downturn in the market? What? Unbelievable, people. Unbelievable. Who's a market manager that doesn't anticipate a downturn? That's like a farmer saying, oh, the market, we're going to have $7 corn for the rest of our life. Cattle are going to be high for the rest of our life. Really? Really? Is it your first time at this rodeo? Because it's up and it's down, and it's up and it's down. And those have to be anticipated. And yet your professional money manager isn't doing that. These are the people that the government said we are going to train to take over for the guaranteed pension that was in the annuity. It's going to be a much better system. No, it's not. That was a fun meeting because I don't get to talk about that stuff all the time, right? But it was fun to just kind of introduce her to the concept and answer all her questions because she had some really super good questions for somebody that had not been introduced to this concept. For somebody that didn't know anything about it, she had amazing questions. Super smart lady. Okay, then I had a client today that read the book, but said, we want you to help us with estate planning and all we care about is the death benefit. Like, that never happens. I think I've had that one other time where they said, I want the death benefit. That's what I want. And so I ran illustrations. The old-fashioned, she wants whole life. She wants it there for her whole life because the off-the-farm child is going to get the death benefit. And so we talked about cash value and talked about why I set the policies up the way that I do. But then we went over what a policy is going to look like. And I ran a policy my way for infinite banking, and I ran a policy her way for straight up death benefit, the old-fashioned traditional whole life. My way was $800,000 of death benefit, her year one. Her way year one was, I think, like 1.2 or 1.3 million. More death benefit, zero cash value year one. So we went down to, I believe it was 80 or somewhere in the 80s, and looked at what it cost us for every dollar of death benefit. Because if we're buying death benefit, we don't want to overpay for it. So we had, for my way, we had 44 cents on the dollar. Her way, it was like 52 or 53 cents on the dollar. So it was more expensive. At the end of the day, we had very similar death benefits. So we can do traditional whole life. It's going to give you more death benefit right away. It's going to take you about 20 years to break even. My way, you're going to get a little less death benefit, but you're going to get more cash. You're going to break even around year 10 to 11. Because I'm setting it up for cash value. We're driving the death benefit down. We're still making it. I mean, $800,000 is still a good death benefit. So we're driving that death benefit down a little bit in exchange for the cash. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And so when she's seen that and she's seen the amount of growth, when in her other policy, her growth was like a couple $100,000. In our policy, it almost doubled in the infinite banking policy, if I remember correctly. It was a lot. And so it was a no-brainer. And she too was an accounting major. And so she was super good with their numbers. They had practically no debt. She was getting it all paid off. But she was looking at cash, right? She just wants it for this. But when we can create a system, and really she was like, why do I want to borrow from the policy if the interest rate's higher than the bank? And I said, well, maybe you don't want to borrow from the policy. But that doesn't mean that you can't have liquid money in case an opportunity arises, in case you have an opportunity to buy land because they're expanding. Their son is coming home to farm with them, right? Or wants to start farming. So if you have an opportunity to expand, why would you not want liquid money? Why would you want the hassle of the bank? And if you don't have a problem with the bank and you don't have a problem with your loans, great. Go get the cheap money. But you got it over here if you need it. Let's see who I missed here. Hey, Brett. Hi, Tony from sunny Florida. It was sunny North Dakota today. It was not 80, but it was 60. Perfect. Next couple I had, they were so fun. They were full of ideas. They both own a business individually. They're both entrepreneurs. And they bought a farm they bought a tree farm with all kinds of different trees. And so they want to quit their other businesses and focus on the tree farm because they have turned the place into they've done harvest festivals and they've got Christmas trees and oh my gosh, it's awesome. Awesome. They've done a VRBO with the house that's on the property. And they're kind of in the middle of Timbuktu. No major cities around them for an hour and 45 minutes. And so they are a long ways out, but they have made it successful. They are willing to do everything. They're trying all kinds of stuff and it's working because they have the big vision and they're implementing it. They were Dave Ramsey teachers. So they weren't just your average fan. They were teaching Dave Ramsey courses. And so what did they do? They made a bunch of money year two in their new venture, and they took that money and they paid 3 years of principal to the previous owner who is owner financing them for some of the loan. 3 years of principal. So let's talk about that. We're growing a business. Should we have left that liquid money so that we can do other things? Because we're talking like they got big ideas for this place. So don't we want to use that money so that we can add one more thing to the farm that will generate people coming in? Don't we want to have access to that money in case there's other land to buy? There is land near them that they need to purchase. And so shouldn't we have access to money when that land comes for sale, we can do that? So that we don't ever have to have a line of credit if something bad happens. Maybe we need to buy a new piece of equipment. Why go to the bank and borrow money? So now we are paying previous owner down, and then if we need money, we're going to turn around and go back to the bank and ask for money. And they might say, I don't know. I don't understand this whole pumpkin patch tree thing, right? So shouldn't we just keep it? And if we need it, we can use it. If we don't need it, no big deal. And they want to lower the interest they pay. They're paying about 6% interest. Now, I'm no accountant. However, you can deduct the interest as a business expense. They made money. So now they actually reduce their deductions. Because if you're paying 6.5% interest and you get to deduct it, not really 6.5% interest, right? So why kill the deduction you have and give up liquid money? They were doing everything right, paying cash, being smart, according to the traditional, or I'm going to say, paying cash is a traditional thing to do, right? So according to the traditional thing to do. What's not traditional to me is getting back to that 401k thing. That's not traditional because that's 46 years old. That's not traditional. Traditional is life insurance at 100 and some years old. So 401ks are the new thing. They're trending. They're trending right now. But anyway, they were super fun to talk to because in case you guys haven't noticed or maybe you didn't know, I love like big ideas. I love to run strategies. I'm like, oh, you could do this and you could plant sunflowers and you could do that. Oh, and I had all kinds of ideas for them. And they had already thought of it and many more that I would have not even thought of. So it was fun. I love the big ideas. I love to run with big ideas. Go, oh my gosh, we could do this and this and this. And then I'm not necessarily the implementer all the time when it comes to the fine details. That's why I have two amazing assistants, because they follow through on stuff. But that's why I love to meet with clients, because I get to run strategies. That's my favorite thing to do, is have those first meetings and run those strategies, or talk to clients about what they're doing and continually run strategies. That's super fun for me. Okay, talk to another couple who are leasing a massive ranch. I don't even remember how many acres, but it was ginormous. And they are running 2,200 head and have 100 of their own. So they're leasing the ranch and they're running these 2,200 head on as custom grazing. They're doing custom grazing, and they have 100 of their own. The goal is for them to have like 450 of their own. Now, through our conversation, they made money. They made probably $100,000 last year. So all those of you who think I'm crazy, you don't need to own land and have cattle notes to make money. Lease some land, run some custom cattle, and they said they could never be without cows. People are always looking for grass. So you can run some custom. If you want to be a rancher, doesn't mean you got to own it. And all my guys that are doing custom and leasing are making money if you're doing it correctly, right? I mean, there's ways to lose money at everything. These two know their books. They're doing it correctly. Here's the thing, though. In our conversation, he said, well, I would like to have my own cattle. So he was going to go to FSA and get a 1.5% cattle loan. So he could buy 350 head, and he could look at his cattle instead of somebody else's cattle. My thought was, you're not going to look at cattle that say, you're welcome, I'm paying you. You're going to look at cattle that are owned by the FSA. And then you're going to have the stress of having to pay for those cattle. So we know we have income now because we're running custom. They've done this for years. They're making money. Can we take some of the money that we make and put it into a policy to create the pool of money we need to go buy his own cattle? And he doesn't have to go to FSA. He doesn't have to worry about having open cows, losing calves, right? Holding over heifers, waiting 2 years for them to breed back. We don't have to worry about that because he can do it through the policy. Because he's going to retain some from the ones he has. So if he's retaining and building, and we looked out 5 years, because this is what I do. I want to plan. If we have a mission to do something, I want to plan. I want to run my calculators and run my illustrations and kind of see where that ends up. But if we can look out 5 years on the illustration, look out 5 years on what he's projected to have for head numbers, and say, okay, this is what we're going to need in 5 years to buy whatever you need, great. We have a head start. We kind of know how much we need to put in the policy. We kind of know if we're going to have it or not. If we don't, we don't. We keep running them custom maybe. I'm not trying to, I did not tell him not to do it because it's not my call. It's not my call. But I can tell you, when I talk to ranchers who have huge cattle notes, they're not making money and they're stressed. When the market goes down and you bought today when the market's a little bit high and the market goes down, now you have FSA to pay. Can we still be thanking the custom cows out there? Thank you, ma'am, for the payment. And I said to him, you do whatever you want. I'm just putting another thought process behind it. And he said, I have no problem waiting as long as there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because a lot of times we feel like there's not light at the end of the tunnel. We can't plan it. But what are we doing with our money today? that we could be putting away to create that pool of money? Even if you don't use the infinite banking concept, what could you be doing with that money today? Could you be putting it in a savings account or a shoebox? Long term, not as good a strategy, but still a strategy better than possibly going into debt that we don't know we're going to be able to pay. All right, sorry, I am so thirsty tonight. We had steak for supper, and it must have been my seasoning. Okay, next guy. He has a great off-the-farm job. Fantastic. Hey, Caleb. He has a great off-the-farm job. And he has some cattle of his own, few head. And he has a, what did he call it? A collection site. So people drop cows off there, other people come and get them and haul them out to whoever and wherever. And so he gets paid for this collection site. But guess what? He didn't know his numbers because he wasn't keeping his books. The job was paying for the farm, and the collection was paying for this part of the farm, and we really didn't know where the money was going. And so we really need to know, like, if you're not keeping your books, how do you know if the ranch or the farm's making money? You don't. And as I told him, the collection site should be an enterprise and the farm should be an enterprise. So the collection site should not be supporting the farm should be supporting itself. Because if the collection site is making more money, we need to do more of the collection site. And his wife works off the farm, and she wants to stop working off the farm so that she can stay at home and work at home. Well, he had not thought of this either. And this is just my business. This is just stuff I've learned from business coaching and running my own business. But I said, okay, so you're running X amount of cows through the collection site right now, and you want to have X amount more. Can you handle your goal, your top number? Can you handle that on your own? Well, no, because then it takes away from my job, because I have to be here the day that these cows are picked up, or these cattle are picked up, because they're not all cows, obviously, right? Right, Dave? And so, so he needs to be there. I said, so if your wife was at home running that, and you already have the connections of people selling that could bring the cattle there, could you make more money and replace her income because she would be running that for you? It would be more efficient. You would have more time to be selling. She could be managing all of it. Oh, he had not thought of that. This is just a typical business strategy. The same thing that happened to me as I was growing my business. No, I can do it all. I can't afford an assistant. Well, guess what? As soon as I hired an assistant, I quadrupled my income because I got to meet with clients, which is what I'm good at, and I got to stop doing paperwork, which is what I suck at. And I suck so bad at it, I procrastinate, and I don't get it done. Oh, it's awful. Or the insurance company asks me questions that I think are silly, and then I reply back and say, why are you asking me such a stupid question? Right? Like, why does the son need life insurance on mom and dad? Hello? You don't know what I do? Why are you asking me questions like that? And so that's not what I'm good at. So if you hire somebody that's good at something so you can go do what you're good at, you're going to increase your business. It's just how it works. But we're always so scared to hire somebody, and we think, oh, we're going to do all the paperwork. Right? Well, maybe when are you going to get that done? I talked to a guy last week who sells equipment, and the equipment dealership won't let him have an assistant. So he goes and sells a piece of equipment Then he has to get back to the office to write it all up and email it. But he's on the road, so it might take him a day or two to get back. Well, I'm the farmer. I want to buy my piece of equipment. I want my estimate or my quote or whatever it is. Why am I waiting? The equipment dealership could actually make more money if they just had somebody else doing the paperwork and let the salesmen do their job. They're the ones out there building relationships. This is not rocket science. Yes, it's going to sting right away. We're going to have to pay somebody else. But guess what? If somebody else does their job, they will pay for themselves. My assistants are amazing. They pay for themselves. If your help isn't paying for themselves, they're not really help. They're an expense. I don't care if you're farming, if you're ranching, if you have a business on the side like this, or if you're a business owner. Especially if you're a contractor, if you're an electrician, if you're a plumber. Oh my heavens, get yourself an assistant. I did get an email from him, and he said, I was driving after our meeting and realized I am a shitty money manager. No, his exact words, I'm a piss poor money manager. And so it was, it's not my intent to make people feel that way, but I am going to say, keep your books because you don't know your numbers. I am going to let you know that, because if I can't get your numbers from you, how do you know what you're doing? You can guess all day long. I did it once. I guessed wrong. Yes, you're right, Dave. All right. The next one, I had a 23, 24-year-old kid who got dad and the uncle to read the book, sit in on the meeting. It was super fun. And he said, well, dad and my uncle need more help than I do. So the kid has this, he's getting paid a nice salary. He bought a combine. He's doing some custom combining with dad and the uncle. So he has a really nice income. He's living at home. He's okay with that. No wife, no girlfriend. Guess what? He's got some money. And we talked to the uncle, and we have a spouse that has some massive health issues. Really, really challenging health issues. Not insurable, could end up in the nursing home at a very young age and could live there for a long time. And they have no nursing home insurance. So he's really scared about what's going to happen to his 50% of the partnership. And the dad said, we don't know what to do, so we haven't done anything. And it is super overwhelming because there are so many options. You don't know what good attorneys to go to. Where do we begin? Right? They are okay talking about it. They are talking about it with the son that's 23. They have great relationship. They want to support each other as families, and that's amazing. But not doing the homework and looking at options, or at least talking to people. Just because you talk to somebody doesn't mean you have to do business with them. I talk to many people that do not do business with me. Maybe they didn't like me. Maybe they didn't have the money. Maybe they didn't think this concept was all that awesome. Maybe they went to their local agent. I don't know. I do not have every person I talk to in a day turn into a client. So don't think that if you are looking for information that you need to do business with somebody. Ask for referrals. Who's worked with them? People do that to me all the time. Who can I talk to that are clients of yours? We have a list of people that are willing to talk to clients and tell them what it's like to work with us, what it's like to have used the policies. I am never offended by that. Look at my shirt. No, not offended. Takes a lot to offend me. But, kudos to them for stepping out. So what are we going to do? The son, who has all the money, is going to buy policies on dad and the uncle, and then we'll probably do some really cheap term on him. But he's willing to stick as much as he can in because he's going to have to buy out his siblings. He's going to have to buy out a cousin. And so he's preparing, and dad and the uncle understand that, and they will help if they can. But right now, they've had some bad years, and they have dug themselves out. Kudos to them. They did not just roll over. They've done custom. They've gone into partnership with a hog operation. They have done what they've done custom spraying, custom harvesting, custom planting. They have done what they've needed to do to get themselves out of the hole that they dug, or the unfortunate hole when commodity prices dropped. So fantastic opportunity for the son. Fantastic that they're talking to people. But the wife that's very sick has been sick since she's been like 31 or 32 years old. So all my young people, don't think that it can't happen to you. Get that insurance and get some whole life before any of this stuff happens. Okay. I have another guy that is a business owner. He's got some small acreage. I have a lot of business owners this week. He helps his dad and two uncles farm. The uncles are not married and do not have children. He's pretty lucky. But who knows who they're going to leave it to? They all get along, but he has no guarantees of anything. And so he is wondering if he can do something on them. Absolutely he can, with their permission. But that's kind of the road that he wants to go. He has a trade business, so trade, electrician, plumbers, whatever, that's what I call them, trade business. And so he's kind of looking to get out of that, and he would like to get back to farming. But so here's the deal with uncles and parents and those sort of people. And I get this question all the time, and I never think to really answer it. If you have a family member that is 65 to 70, we are looking at $20,000 to $25,000 of premium per year. That is to create a banking policy. Okay? That is not what I need to write a policy, but that is to create a banking policy. The death benefit on that's going to be around that $300,000 mark. It is not. Having a policy on somebody 65 to 70 is not going to make you wealthy. It is not going to buy the farm. It may not even be enough for a down payment. But you are still buying death benefit for around 55 cents on the dollar. 50 to 55 cents on the dollar. So you are still getting a discounted dollar income tax free. It still makes sense to do that. But we have to have enough money to do that. Okay? So if you are sitting there wondering, well, can I get a life insurance policy on my dad, my uncle, my grandpa, whoever is in their 70s, 65, 70s. 75, it gets very iffy. Okay? They have to be like top-notch health. And with those policies, a lot of times we're not paying till death. But and there's a lot that goes on with that I can explain in a meeting. However, if you are wondering, 20 to 25 grand a year, that's your maximum premium, not the minimum that has to be paid every year. Very little flexibility in those policies, but lots of premium. Okay. One left. So if you guys have questions or comments or whatever, put them down so I can see them when I'm done here. The next guy, he has an off-the-farm job as well. And then they bought a small acreage, and they are turning the barn into a VRBO. And they're putting some RV spots on their land. So I've had a couple of these lately, which I think is kind of fun. So we're turning barns into event centers, or we're turning them into, like he's doing a VRBO, which is going to be cool. And then we're going to let people come in with RVs and camp and make a little bit of money off the land. And then they've got some goats. And so, they want to have a little store in the bottom of the barn, and then on the top of the barn, people are going to live, and it'll be cool. They too, I don't know if they're big Dave Ramsey fans. I don't remember. But they just bought this place. They sold their existing place. They used a ton of that money to buy the place that they have now. And then they mortgaged a little bit of it with a 10-year mortgage. I said, why did you do 10 years? Well, because we didn't want to pay all that interest. But now we're fixing the barn, right? We're putting a bunch of money into the barn, and we're putting RV spots in, and we're putting barking pads in, and we're buying goats, and we're doing a lot of farm things. We're probably going to need some equipment and all these other things. And so now what are we doing? Giving the bank a big payment. Yeah, they only got 9 years left. That's great. But now we got to struggle for 9 years. And it might slow down the progress of what we want to do. So very much like my other clients that I've had this week, it's apparently the theme, get everything paid off, which is great. That's fantastic. Being debt-free is not creating wealth. It's not creating cash flow. Dave, a VRBO is vacation rental by owner. So if you left the ranch, oh, I love picking on you. If you leave the ranch and you want to go to another town, you can stay in a house instead of staying in a hotel. And those are owners of the house that are renting them out. So vacation rental by owner, kind of like an Airbnb. Same thing. And so why are we back to this loan? All this cash flow goes to the bank. And then when we need it, we got to go back to the bank and ask them for it again. Long-term loans are not a bad thing. You can pay them off early. In their case, they could have deducted the interest because the whole farm is in a venue, right? And they can use it for things. So being debt-free is great, but it's not creating that wealth. So think about that. How can I create the wealth? If I am a business owner and I am a rancher and I am a farmer, guess what? You're going to be able to create that wealth because that's how we think. What can we do to make money? That's just who we are as entrepreneurs. And if we have to go ask the bank for money, they could very easily say no to our next venture. Do longer notes if you can. Leave yourself some liquid money. Leave yourself some space to breathe so that you can then turn around and use that money and not have to beg the bank for it. But here's the deal. If you do that, this couple, for example, if you're going to do a 30-year mortgage versus a 10, you have to take that difference and put it somewhere and not spend it and just blow it and let Parkinson's law take over. You need to do something with that money to create a pool. You need to use the cash and pay it back plus interest. You need to play banker with it and be honest about it. You can't just say, oh, I did a 30-year mortgage. I did exactly what Mary Jo said and I don't have any more money. Yeah, because you spent it on things that weren't necessary. You have to be smart about it. Hey, Luke. Good for you. Okay. That's it. That is all I had this week. Trying to think of maybe what else I did that would be of useful information. I don't think I have a whole lot. I mean, I suppose I don't think anything that else I had this week is useful. But if you guys have questions, you know where to find me. Mary Jo at withoutthebank.com. I am happy to answer those. If I know most of you that are on here are amazing clients already anyway, but if you have not gotten these books, go to farmingwithoutthebank.com, grab them. All three of them you can get on Without the Bank while we have problems with shipping or with checkout. Don't know what that's all about. But please, if you're trying to order the book, please call. Carrie and Jess are phenomenal, and they will make sure that you get helped and that you can get your books out. These two are in audio, so there's really no excuse not to listen. And I did have, one of my guys this week said to me, Mary Jo, I've listened to the book twice, but I still don't understand what it means to be the banker. I'm still paying interest to the life insurance company. Yes, you are. And that's actually next week's podcast because it was such a good question. You are still paying interest to the bank, but you get to control the payback. You get to control when you take a loan. That money is earning uninterrupted compound interest. Okay? It's not about, I'm going to pay interest to the insurance company or I'm going to pay interest to the bank. You're going to pay interest to somebody, or you're going to lose the ability to make interest if we don't put it in the policy. If you take interest out of the factor, you being the banker, which is what Nelson is talking about in this book, you being the banker means you have control. You're earning the dividends because it's a mutual company and you own part of the bank. So that's a big deal. And a great question. And I'll leave the rest of my explanation for you to listen to my podcast. However, it's hard to put that banker hat on. That is the hardest job we have with this concept. Life insurance is the easy part. Being a banker and being honest with our money is the hardest thing we can do. Okay, I'm done. I'm almost out of breath tonight. If you need me, you know where I'm at. If you didn't get the books, get the books. Otherwise, we will see you. I may change these up a little bit. So I may see you next Thursday. It is getting really super nice here. And we just bought our farm, and that place is a disaster. And so we are most likely going to be out there cleaning. If you guys did not see my Facebook posts over the weekend, we took down this huge windbreak that was just deteriorating. Like some of it, you could just shake the whole thing. It was insane. Anyway, we're taking it down, and I almost trip over something. And I'm like, what is that? Oh, well, why wouldn't you just leave boards and posts laying around in grass that's, 3 feet deep and weeds and, oh my gosh, we have so much to do out there. And so what I might do, because it's getting nice and it's staying light now, I might move these to the morning and do like a 7:30 a.m. or a 7 a.m. or something so that we can go out there and do our work and I don't have to worry about looking decent. Because I will probably be weed eating and all the other junk and be filthy and, not that you guys care. Because I'd probably have more credibility if I came looking like a farmer, right? And all dirty and greasy. But I might change these to the morning. So just keep an eye out on the page for that notification and tune in the morning if we change it. But so next week, I'm not sure that it'll be 7:30. I'm not sure that I will be here. But either way, you will all get notified if I am. If there is a specific time in the morning that works best for everybody, reply. Let me know. I'm open minus 5 a.m. not open for 5 a.m. But, I mean, 7 a.m., I'm up anyway. Not a big deal. I mean, I'm usually sitting around ready. Okay, have a good night. We'll see ya next week, most likely, at some point.